Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Mosensia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Mosensia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Mosensia has garnered great reviews and E11 endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes, Riley, and Alice. So grab your copy today. 4 Goes Missing by Mia Mosensia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com and over 30 podcast platforms, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Audible, Apple Music, and coming soon to HamiltonRadio.net every Thursday night at 9, and also and other networks to follow as well. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies. Makes great gifts 24/7. Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Mosensia for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Also cool merchandise like T-shirts, pop sockets, phone cases, hoodies, and more. Amazon.com/Mia Mosensia. Check it out today. Also support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, themikewagnershow.com, and make sure you buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com at the Mike Wagner Show. Make sure you do so today. We're here with a terrific lady who's a wife, mother, daughter, and lover of all literary. We'll talk about that. She's also got a book called Masked Intent, and she's also a journalist by training, holds degrees from University of Virginia and Columbia, also began as a business reporter for Poughkeepsie Journal and went on to Crane Communications as international publisher of business and trade magazines. Also periodically contributes to Advertising Age, and she also had led some creative led strategies, marketing for several global companies, also launched a boutique marketing firm, did some consulting, and currently an adjunct professor at Georgetown University. We'll talk about that. And the brand new book takes a taut, complete look on how we hide behind inauthenticity to guide through interpersonal relationship, and also a backstory behind it too. It's called Masked Intent, and live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plus Studios in beautiful downtown Washington, D.C., the amazing wife, mother, daughter, and of course, she loves literature, the very multi-talented author of Masked Intent, Kim Greer. Kim, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Mike. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm doing great and glad to have you on board as well, too. So you're wife, mother, and daughter, and lover of all literary, and you're a journalist by trade. You also hold degrees from University of Virginia and Columbia University. You began your career as a business reporter for Poughkeepsie Journal and went on to Crane Communications as an international publisher of business and trade magazines, and also periodically contributed to Advertising Age. And you also conducted and led strategic and marketing communications for several global companies. You launched a boutique marketing firm, did some consulting. You're also current adjunct professor at Georgetown University. And your new book takes a taut, complete look and how we're behind the inauthenticity to guide through interpersonal relationships and more. And there's a little backstory behind it too called Masked Intent. And before we get into all that, Kim, tell us how it first got started.
Well, sure. Well, I've always been a storyteller. I think from the time of 12 years old, I got into writing short stories and was encouraged by my English teachers, the first of whom was my mom. And so I kept with it. I just kept writing. I think that if you look for a common thread behind all of the jobs I've had, it is storytelling. In order to be a brand agent, you have to be a storyteller. It has to be something that you ought to relate through pictures and messaging. When you are a teacher, you're telling stories in order to engage your students. And so I think that's kind of the common thread. But I left journalism because I realized it was right around the time when I realized I was not going to be the female Walter Cronkite. That had been my goal. I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to disseminate information, but it was right around the time when, at least from my perspective, journalism was changing from being information driven to being advertising driven.
Mm.
And it really wasn't something that I wanted to do. And I didn't like the scrutiny of the stories that I was writing, because a lot of them had to do with whether or not they would be placed in the same issue as a particular advertiser. And it just wasn't why I got into it. And so I went the corporate route, but kind of always kept my story writing on the side. And like so many would-be writers or wannabe writers, when the pandemic hit, I decided to pull it out, dust it off, and see what I got.
Hmm.
And Masked Intent was the result.
Hmm. And before we talk the book as well, too, it made me think too that I was a journalist back in the day. It was more sports writing. You talked about the
Right.
information, but then it's like, wasn't advertising back then considered taboo as well? If you like, say, you did a story on so and
Right.
so and it was tied to advertising, wasn't that
Right.
taboo back then?
It was supposed to be, but because I worked for trade publications, it was kind of a handshake under the table. When it wasn't overt, but I saw it going on. And I was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and full of ethics, fresh out of grad school. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. It
Hmm.
didn't engage me. It became boring after a while. And
Hmm.
so I realized that maybe my attentions were more in telling stories of my own making rather than disseminating news.
Hmm. And I noticed that trend has been going on as well too. It's like, instead of a talking head like Walter Cronkite, who actually just told you straight without any left, right, or any slant
Right.
like that, you had a talking head,
Right.
Walter Cronkite, CBS, Harry Reasoner, ABC, Floyd Calvert,
Right.
NBC. Then you had McNeil, Lara. Those are the ones that really
Mm,
trust,
absolutely.
talking head and everything else. And what was
Right.
it one precise moment that simply influenced you into what you're doing for the rest of your career?
I was a daily reporter and I was a business reporter. So covering daily news was not something I was accustomed to, but I was the only one in the office that particular day. And so the city editor asked me to cover a funeral of a Teamster in upstate New York.
Hmm.
And I couldn't figure, what is my goal here? The only thing he wanted, it wasn't to get the coverage of the actual funeral, it was to get a quote from then Governor Mario Cuomo,
Hmm.
because we were a small, tiny little paper. And Cuomo at the time had the reputation for only speaking to Albany state-based reporters, and I was not that. And so that became my challenge. But it wasn't so much just to get the quote. I think it was to say this paper had the quote. And I felt like that was a bit of a misplaced carrot dangled in front of me. I didn't really see the value. I wasn't successful. His people flanked around him in a way I understand, yes, this is a governor and you're not going to let just anyone come up to him. But I felt like it was just, a human shield blocking me. And it was a symbolic representation, but it also kind of hit me with, this is not what I came here to do. This is not news. This is something else. This is titillation or something. And the rest wasn't what attracted me to the craft at the time.
Hmm. And who are some of your favorite authors and writers, and especially journalists growing up?
Oh, sure. I loved Walter Cronkite. I mentioned that. I love Dan Rather, and I still love him to this day.
Hmm.
But I also was very into fiction. And this is going to sound really weird. My favorite book of all time is Crime and Punishment. I love
Oh,
Dostoevsky.
yes. Crime and Punishment. That's a classic.
I love Russian literature. I think it is dark. I think it is bleak, but I'm not going to say that you can see some of the influence of that in my writing, but I do take a while to tell my stories, a while to have them unfold, because my goal is to tell stories that impact society, that aren't just necessarily lighthearted reads, that are some sort of commentary and that contain messaging beyond the words on the page.
Hmm. And what about some of your other books as well, too? And what other genres that also influence you and interested in?
Oh, sure. I love romance. I'm a romance junkie. And so Kennedy Ryan is a huge fan favorite of mine. She is an indie author. And so that's also another reason why I've kind of tried to pattern what I'm doing. I have some steps to take yet, but trying to pattern what I'm doing after her. I also enjoy Sierra Simone, and I enjoy gosh, who else? There's so many. Talia Hibbert. There's so many really, really great romance novelists. I used to be a mystery buff, so James
Oh.
Patterson, Mary Higgins Clark. But I think that I'm not so much. I don't know that I have a talent for writing genre literature, so I read it, but I don't know that I would ever try my hand at that.
And how about some of your favorite books as well, or novels? Your other ones?
Oh, sure. Go Tell It on the Mountain. Definitely. That was one of the early ones that my parents gave me by James Baldwin. Um, Gosh, I read so many different things. Malcolm, this isn't a novel, the book, Malcolm Gladwell, The Tipping Point. I listen to that over and over again. You always get something different from that. Outliers. I mean, he's just a wonderful, wonderful writer. I was a huge New Yorker junkie. I caught that bug when I was in graduate school and haven't quite given it up. And so, yeah, I read wide, I read long, I read broad. The longer, the better. The more Russian literature in there, the better.
Mm.
Nabokov, everyone.
Mhm. Russian literature, you made me think about as well, too. I also think along the lines, that's an offshoot of Russian, which was going on at the time was Animal Farm. And I remember that back in the day where
Mhm.
it's just like, how like the message was people abuse power, power abuses
Right,
people, and was made to a cartoon like with pigs, horses, and
right,
everything else. And it looked cute and cuddly, but there was a serious message to it. That also happened in
right.
Russia as well, like the power struggle.
Right, exactly. Another novel that comes to mind, Fahrenheit 451, Ray Bradbury. And,
Oh, yes.
just a few months ago, we were talking about books that should be banned. And, that's the whole backdrop of that novel about how books have been cast out of society because they're affecting our minds in a way that no one wants. We're burning books. And I kind of feel like we've gone back to that. So, not to, I don't think that I'm a dystopian author, but I think that all of those dystopian themes definitely influence kind of some of my bearing as a writer and some of the thinking about what I want to do going forward.
Mhm. Which you talk about the banning of books and everything else. Which books you felt
Mhm.
should have been banned? Which books you felt should have not been banned? You totally disagree with?
I don't believe in book banning. I
I
think
agree.
it was Isaac Asimov who said that any book worth being banned is worth being read. And so I just don't see that anything along the way, Lolita. It's a tawdry story to be sure, but these stories come from somewhere. Art definitely imitates life. And so, I don't see the danger in reading a fictional story having that bleed out into bad behaviors. I think bad behaviors are learned, they're reinforced, but they're not necessarily picked up on the pages of books.
Hmm. That's really interesting as well, too. And we'll talk about your book, Mass Intent, in just 1 minute. But first, to listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget, Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@SonicWebStudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. It takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Z has garnered great reviews and even loved and endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today. 4 Goes Missing by Mia Molson-Z, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com on over 30 podcast platforms. Coming soon to HamiltonRadio.net every Thursday night at 9 Eastern. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. For great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia. For great books, merchandise, and more, Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia. Check it out today. Also, support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com at the Mike Wagner Show. Make sure you do so today. We're here with the amazing wife, mother, daughter, and lover of all things literary, Kim Greer, on the Mike Wagner Show. We'll talk about the book Mass Intent as well, too. And of course, after you made the jump from journalism over as well, too, you also got involved with conducting strategic marketing communications for several global companies. You also launched a boutique marketing firm, consulting, and currently you're an adjunct professor at Georgetown University. You really know how to keep busy as an author.
I do. Actually, I'm not with Georgetown anymore. I
Oh, you're
left that
not? Okay. All
position.
right.
No,
I'll
I'm
put
not.
that down. Okay.
Okay. However, yeah, I guess, again, storytelling is the common thread through all of these kind of positions, these travels that I take. I really enjoy the creative process. Branding is something that I truly enjoy. I enjoy also being an independent contractor, and so that's been a wonderful experience as well. But it's all been leading up to being a writer. I believe that that's the crux of who I am. It's what I do. It's where I'll go.
Hmm. And of course, of all the professions you've been in, what would you say your favorite story would be if you were to sit down and write a story? Like you've been with Poughkeepsie Journal, like say Advertising Age, or say you're with Georgetown or anything like that. It's like, what would be your favorite story to write about?
I was an advertising columnist in Cleveland with Crane's Cleveland Business,
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
I loved the marketing column that I wrote every other week because it basically was an advertising gossip column. And the that's
And
call
you're
it by its
too
name.
ethical about this.
But it was, when I say gossip, it wasn't about, sordid things. It was
I know,
about
I'm kidding.
contracts coming and going, right? But it was very informative because it also gave some indication as to the types of businesses that were moving in and out of Cleveland. And so I felt like I had a scoop on the local daily paper. I was only writing once a week, but I was able to pack my column with news from advertising agencies because if anybody, if you want to find someone in the know, PR folks are in the know. And so they would feed me information. I would chat them up, they'd chat me up. And it was just great fun every week to compile that information. I'd love to maybe write a book about that someday. It was great.
And speaking of Cleveland as well, too, I know they had
Mhm.
their ups and downs. They almost filed for bankruptcy, and then I think
Mhm.
somewhere a decade later, they became really artsy. Put in a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They got
Right,
rid of that steel belt image. Where were you
right.
at the time? When you're in Cleveland, was it like in a down period where it's like they're about to file for bankruptcy, or was it like they they got they became real artistic, like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and
Right.
improved? What was it? I'm trying to think of that ballpark in Cleveland. What do they call it? Like. Uh,
Right. They used to call it the mistake by the lake, the
That's it, yeah.
Browns. Right, right,
That's it.
right, right. And it really, it's aptly named. I've never been to a colder place ever. The Indians at the time, the Guardians now also played right there on the lake. And it was just a hellish experience. I was in Cleveland right around the time, though, post bankruptcy, they were in a resurgence. There is an area targeted towards young people called the Flats, and a lot of bars and entertainment, and that had been cleaned up and very nicely policed. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was under construction at the time, so I never got the chance to see it while I was there. But it was on the rebound. It was taking a nice rebound, and I think that the city still has its challenges, but I really do think there's just so much yet to happen for Cleveland. It's a great experiment that hasn't yet taken off.
And I'm sure it's going to take some time as well, too. Could you imagine doing a little advertising gossip on LeBron James? What did he think?
Yeah, actually, yeah, that was a big deal. When I was in Cleveland, LeBron James was he had just gotten drafted and he was selecting his agent. And that became huge news because he did not select one of the big agents.
Really?
He selected a friend who I believe
Wow.
is his agent to this day. It was someone he'd known from childhood or, at least through the teen years. And his thinking was, I've trusted him this far. He's been with me. He was with me before I was famous. I trust him to handle me now that I am.
Hmm. That's a rather interesting one. I did not know he had an agent as a breast fan. He could have been with like Lee Steinberg or
Right.
John Boris or any
Mhm.
of the big agents. But I mean, that's a
Right.
really inspirational story. I like that. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And of course, we'll get you a book as well too with your new book, taking a taut, complete look at how we hide behind inauthenticity to guide through interpersonal relationship. That's Masked Intent, and tell us more about the book and what inspired you to write Masked Intent.
Well, I used to, for a very short time, I was a middle school English teacher and I was struggling to find a way to get my students to write. And I decided, okay, I'll write with you. So let's take 20 minutes out of every class. I will sit down behind my computer and you write too. And that's when the book was born. I started writing some of the more romance related parts of the book. And so I felt like I was, cheating, doing something, kind of naughty in the classroom, which kind of powered me to do it. But I realized after a few weeks of doing that, I had a few hundred pages and I had
Wow.
something there. But I set it aside and I didn't do anything with it until the pandemic struck. Got off doing other things, raising family, taking care of parents. And then once we did have kind of quarantine hangover, I decided, let me take a look at this again. But the world had changed and about 10 years had passed and the
Hmm.
world had changed. And the biggest thing that influenced me was the changing definition of what truth means.
Hmm.
And so I got this idea that let me take the romance story that I have and I'm going to have it narrated by truth. So I personified the truth. And at the beginning of the book, she's pissed off with humankind because she feels that people no longer recognize her. And she wants to show the dangers and the perils of that. And she uses this love story as an allegory. And it talks about how, as the two main characters try to decide whether or not they want to have a relationship, the thing that gets in the way is the lies that they've told themselves about their past relationships. There's a whole lot of self-deception in the way. There's a whole lot of wearing of masks, not being your authentic self as you try to connect with other people. And it drives them farther apart instead of bringing them closer together. And so there are various periods throughout the book when Truth narrates about this. She gives her commentary, she foreshadows in some places, she brings in her sister's accountability and honesty to kind of help keep pace with what's going on in the story as well. And the whole idea is to just kind of take a look at the fact that some of the biggest deception happens within ourselves. There are lies we tell, we choose to believe, and it's okay, but it's not okay.
Hmm.
And that's what the book is taking a look at.
And do you think social media also plays in this as well?
Absolutely. 100%. Absolutely. The whole idea about alternative facts and alternative truths. And I'm not one to believe in that idea, but I have since come to, I won't say accept, but understand that there are some folks who define truth by their own experiences, based on what they know, what they've been taught, what they've grown up believing and feeling. And the world at large may not be able to change that, but I don't think that it changes the definition of what truth is ultimately. Truth is immutable. And that's kind of one of the overall themes in the book. Truth, my personified narrator, says that. And I'll give a little bit of a spoiler. She's taunting influence. And so influence is going to have something to say in the coming sequel.
Mm. So you got a sequel coming up, and then
I do.
you talked about the writing a book like some 10 years ago up until the
Right.
pandemic when you decided to pull it out.
Mhm.
What was truth considered back then, 10 years ago compared to now?
Well, I can tell you, truth was not an element of the book back then. It started out being just kind of a straight love story. I was going to write a romance and see if I could get it published. So, truth really didn't play any role in it. But I'm happy that I didn't finish the book, number one, then, because I think it would have been a lot less impactful. The characters certainly would not have been as developed. And I don't know that it would have touched my heart as much as it does now. I really kind of like this idea of truth trying to teach us a lesson.
Hmm. And what way, how would that teach a lesson?
Well, she is that the book is called Masked Intent, and her premise is that we all wear masks because we don't like to live in our authentic skin. But that's dangerous because at the end of the day, you lose yourself. You lose yourself, you lose the benefit of honest, pure interactions with others. And it's no way to live in peace. It's no way to live in grace. But it is the way society is going, and we need to make a decision. Is that who we want? Is that the nation we want to be? Is that the world we want to be? Because that doesn't foster trust and camaraderie between people. It continues to pull us apart.
Hmm. And of course, you wonder, it's like, where do you draw the lines and where authenticity takes a back seat? It seems like power is just really getting very
Right,
prevalent these days, like
right,
division,
right,
power, seduction, evil
right,
forces. It's really
right.
getting prevalent out there.
Right, right. And that's discussed a great deal in the book also. There is a bit of a subplot that involves my main character. Alexa is a PR executive, and she represents an owner, CEO of an international oil company, and he is a huge power player. And with all the things that you might expect of some of the less scrupulous power players, that is who this person is. And she has decided she doesn't want to work with him, but she has to separate her personal truths from her job. from her responsibilities. And if we take a look a bit at what a personal toll that takes, how we step outside ourselves in the name of earning money, building career, whatever the case might be, but she's not unscathed by that. And so we talk about, the power, the decadence. He is quite a bit of a charlatan. And so that's discussed as well. And Alexa ends up having to make a choice, this job or my life. And I won't give a spoiler, but she makes that decision and the action moves on from there.
And that's really interesting as well, too. And what do you want readers to get from the book?
I want readers to take a look at themselves and in a 24-hour period, how often are you honest with yourself? When you look in the mirror, can you honestly say that I've been this authentic representation of myself today, or I've been my avatar? Because I think most of us are our avatars. We want to be a bit funnier, we want to be a bit cooler, we want to be a bit prettier, and so we hide behind these pretty little masks. But at the end of the day, we're losing our authentic selves. And I don't believe that that's any way to live. And that's what I want my readers to think. I want my readers to reconsider this 21st century kind of living our best lifestyle that we've adopted.
That is a really good point. I have to say that. Of course, we'll have to double check our Facebooks, Instagrams, Twitters, and everything. Sometimes you got to be really careful out there. And
Right.
Where can we find your book, Masked Intent, at?
Sure. So it's on Amazon.com, but it's also on, if you go to your local bookstore, you can have them order it through Ingram Spark. It is, if you want to just go on barnesandnoble.com, it's available there as well.
We will certainly do so. We're with author Kim Greer of Masked Intent here, the Mike Wagner Show. And what's coming up for Kim? We'll find out just 1 minute. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Also brought to you by our official sponsor, the Mike Wagner Show, international war-ring author Mia Wilson's The Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. We'll be back with author Kim Greer of Masked Intent after this time out. We're back with author Kim Greer of Masked Intent here on the Mike Wagner Show. She's also wife, mother, daughter, lover of all literary, and talked about her amazing career in journalism, side projects, and everything else in the corporate world, and her book, Masked Intent. Also, a few more things, Kim. You've been amazing. And what else can we expect from you in 2022 and beyond?
So I'm working on the sequel to Masked Intent. It's called Intents and Purposes. And as I teased a little bit earlier, influence becomes our narrator. And so she and Truth are going to have it out a little bit. Before I publish Intents and Purposes, there is a prequel to Masked Intent that I've been working on, and it's called Intermezzo. It is a collection of short stories that give the origin stories of some of the key players in Masked Intent. And I think it'll be a nice bridge between the first book and its sequel.
Oh, I'm certainly looking forward to it. That'd be so great. Walter's not involved. And just a couple of things. Who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
My mom, bless her. My mom she taught me to read very early. She taught me to write and always encouraged me to chase my dreams. And I really wish she was here today to see this, but I have a feeling somewhere she's looking down and smiling.
And I'm sure she is as well, too, and saying, well done. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Whatever your dream is, go after it. Life is too short not to.
Oh, that is really well put. I got to say that. Just like a journalist, straight and to the point. That's so amazing.
That's it.
Once again, we're with author and journalist Kim Greer here on the Mike Wagner Show. And Kim, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. Make sure you keep us up to date. Keep in touch. We'd love to have you back. And once again, tell us about your upcoming projects. What's your website? How do people contact? Where can people purchase or check out your book,
Sure.
Masked Intent?
Sure. So you can visit my website, kimgreerwrites.com. If you'd like to email me, it's kim@kimgreerwrites.com. You can find me on Twitter at Words and Muses. That's WORDSANDMUSES. And I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/KimGreerWrites.
We will certainly check those out. Once again, Kim, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having you soon.
You, Mike.
Make sure you keep us up to date. Keep in touch. We'll have you back. We wish you all best. You've got a great future ahead of you.
Thanks so much, Mike.